Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
In the beginning came the Romero. He, of course, gave us the night. After the night follows, of course, the dawn. Dario Argento, he took the dawn, cut out all the funny bits, and added some goblin music. It was, of course, a raging success in Italy. As the Italians are prone to do when they get a smell of success, they capitalize the fuck out of it. And that's where we come in. Tonight's video nasty project is Zombie Flesh Eaters, aka Zombie 2. Check out the trailer. And welcome back. That was Zombie Flesh Eaters, aka Zombie 2, aka just Zombie, aka about a million other names, because in Italy they seem to be incapable of releasing a movie that doesn't have a million names attached to it. It starts out really strong. It starts out with this man silhouetted in with like a halo of light behind him, and he's got a gun. He points the gun straight at the camera, and he says, and he pulls the trigger, blows whatever it is away, and then it's done. We can go to the boat now. You cut to the zombie, and it's this head splurt thing. Then we go to the New York harbor, and there's a sailboat coming into the harbor. And it's a derelict, it's not manned, and it's adrift. And I got a really strong Nosferatu vibe out of that.
I think of the whole bit of the boat coming into the harbor in England, and the crew's been laid waste, and there's one crazy guy. But do we have a crazy guy?
No, we've got a zombie. So the cops come out to the boat in the harbor, and they board the boat. They start looking around. There's nobody in here. One of the guys opens up a drawer, and blah, zombie! Big, bald, fat zombie comes blowing out and rips his neck out, and got blood everywhere. The zombie goes up to the top deck. The cop pulls out his gun, is like, stop, 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 and eventually winds up blowing him away. Guy falls over into the water. They tow the boat into the harbor, they take the dead cop off, and they take him to the morgue. And they find the boat's owner's daughter. And she comes down, and it's like, oh my God, where's my dad? What happened to my dad? It's like, well, when was the last time you saw him? Well, he was down in the Caribbean. He was on an island doing experiments. The woman winds up hooking up with our lead of the film. A good-looking blonde reporter dude. They wind up going down to find her dad. And they wind up hooking up in one of the main Caribbean islands with this other couple who are going out on a vacation, and they've got a boat, and they're like, hey, we're going to go cruise the Caribbean for 2 weeks. They come up to him and said, hey, man, could you give us a ride? Now, I don't know about you guys, but if two strangers came up to me and said, hey, can you give us a ride, and we're out to go on a vacation, I'd be like, no, fuck off.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I would too.
Go rent a boat.
Go get your own boat. I mean, come on now.
We're gonna do three things. We're gonna fish. We're gonna scuba dive, and we're gonna do it. And not necessarily in that order.
And we don't want two strangers with us. But well, there it is.
They had to give you an ensemble.
Exactly.
It's what they were doing.
Yeah,
okay, I understand that. It's a weak plot point, but it's not a significantly weak plot point.
Right. So they cruise out to the island. Along the way, they stop. The one who's on the vacation says, oh, wait, I want to go take some pictures on the water. And we get our most talked about, most infamous, biggest, baddest scene in the entire movie, where she's kind of skinny dipping-ish.
She's wearing a French bikini bottoms,
A thong.
a thong basically, a scuba tank, and a breath mask, and her camera, and she's not wearing flippers, and she's not wearing anything else.
So she goes scuba diving, and out of nowhere, this big-ass shark shows up. Doesn't attack her, doesn't get all jaws on her, but the zombie, on the other hand, well, the zombie actually doesn't attack her either, but the zombie shows up and starts attacking the shark.
The zombie does get a hold of her for a moment.
It's not able to bite her. She's able to actually fight her way out and take some coral or something, a little flour, and scratch.
And I like the sexuality that they put into the scene. She's got her legs around the guy's waist. He's right up. It's like, oh, come on.
So the zombie and the shark, they start throwing down, and she swims away to safety. And this scene is incredibly badass because you've got a real life shark that could, it's a big animal that eats things. You've got a scuba diving woman who's naked and mostly defenseless, and you've got a zombie who is a stuntman without a breath mask or a tank or anything underwater. The staging of that scene must have been fucking insane. How Fulci or his second unit dude did that. My only issue with the scene is that, okay, do not mistake me. This is an incredibly badass and well-constructed scene. However, it kills the narrative stone dead. They stop in the middle of the ocean for no particular reason. She takes off her clothes for no particular reason other than to insert some gratuitous nudity. She goes swimming. The shark shows up. The zombie shows up. And then they get back on the boat and they go on with the story.
With a unexplained, when the shark hit the bottom of the boat. The shark hit the bottom of the boat? And cracked the drive shaft? What?
Which makes it impossible for them to do much of anything other than go straight to that island and hope they can get repairs.
Okay.
Which strands them.
It's a very tenuous plot point. So it's basically, it goes nowhere for the story. But it's really fucking cool, so I wouldn't cut it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't serve the story.
No, it doesn't.
So they get to the island. They run around on the island for a little bit. They meet the doctor, who is her father, who is trying to figure out why the dead are coming back to life. And I loved how the movie, for the first 20 minutes after you meet the doctor, he's really played as a sinister sort of dude. So you're thinking, is he the cause behind this? Is he the reason why this is happening? So they go and it's like, well, we got to go find the one of the ladies wandered off. Let's go find out what happened to her. Oh, she's dead. We'll get back. The zombies attack. They overrun the little hospital that the doctor has set up. They flee the island, get back on the boat that sort of works, and get back to New York. And the zombies are everywhere.
Yeah.
The end.
Now we can talk about how they had a potential for plot and they didn't use it. That's what I'd like to do.
All right.
Okay. The doctor says, go to my house with my girlfriend. And what I find amusing is that the daughter knew nothing of the girlfriend. Knew nothing about. You have a girlfriend? What? They get to the house and find her dead. Now, leading up to her death is also probably one of the most graphic zombie death scenes in zombie history.
And
Yes.
probably the most notable scene that Fulci ever committed to film. We're talking, of course, the splinter scene. Oh my God, the splinter scene.
This is one of the few times with a movie of that era where we see a prosthetic head
A really well
that
done
looks really good. It's like,
wow.
is that really her head that close to this? No, because it's entering her eye. Oh, wow.
And it's a slow, lingering, dragged out forever. She's screaming.
And she's not dead.
And she's not dead. And then they pull away, and it's still. And then for like 2 seconds after they pull her away, she's still there. It's like
It's still screaming.
It's still screaming. It's like, oh my fucking Christ! That's
Ugh.
Fulci has a thing for eyes.
Makes
oh my
you want
God!
for a premium pair of tweezers.
And it cuts away from that point. Because now we go back, because we see them arriving and the doctor and da-da-da-da.
And this is where the movie really starts to kind of pick up and kick into overdrive.
Yeah.
Or fall apart for some people.
Basically, your principal characters who have all been dealing with this problem for 3 months suddenly lose their wits. They're not dealing with the problems that they're facing, but they're problems that they've been facing for 3 months. It's become routine. It should be something that they're taking care of without any problems. They become idiots. And I feel that it all happens simply to facilitate that they're getting overrun.
Yeah, that's the problem the movie has in a lot of places, where it's a lot of things happen just for plot's sake.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you're running into, is that it moves the plot along and that's all it does.
The people who are alive and get killed come back as zombies really super lightning quick, where it's pre-established that it takes time. That's one chief argument that I've got. And there's other points that I could go into better detail, but that's good.
But pretty much, it's a fine movie up until about the last 20 minutes, and then it just kind of wobbles a little bit.
I say it goes off the train gets derailed, but it's not a train wreck, if that makes sense. Yeah, why after I think it's established at this point that something has been going on there for 3 months. Why suddenly, after 3 months of freshly dead people coming back to life as zombies after a day, what facilitates the 400-year-old dead corpses from sitting up?
I've got it. I figured it out. So the dead people who have been showing up, they're fresh. They're only a day old. They're 3 months old, recently dead. 400-year-old brains take a while to activate. That's why they're suddenly getting up now.
That's a good reason. But it's still just...
To be fair, I'm making an excuse. I don't fucking know.
But it's a good rationalization. It fits. It's a good explanation. There's nothing in the movie to explain it, though.
All right, no, that's a fair enough assessment. I cannot debate your logic. I see those plot holes. I think the movie is strong enough that it carries them over those without an issue.
It does. It does. There's my big problem with the film.
On the other hand, I think the ending is fucking brilliant. I mean, it's a very slow burn all the way up to about pretty much when they go and find the girl and who had the splinter in her eye. And after that, it just kind of starts going balls to the wall. And then they get to the church, and it's absolute just fucking chaos. Mm-hmm. They start throwing Molotov cocktails at them, and they do really good fire gags. There's this one zombie who's just kind of lumbering along, and he's on fire, and his arm just falls off. And this zombie gives no fucks.
Yeah, he just keeps walking.
It's like, the stuntman must have been, all right, call cut, please. So it's a technically well done film. I love the gore. The gore is great. Mm-hmm. I mean, beyond the splinter, beyond the zombie and shark bit. I mean, just all the throat rips and all that, really well done. The zombies look great. The one who you see on all the posters, the one who sits up with the maggots in his eyes, I mean, is a stunningly well done zombie creation. Mm-hmm. Fucking brilliant. And they had no money for the thing. Basically, what they did for most of the extra zombies in the background was they would take red clay from the ground and got it wet and put it all over them. And that was it.
There was one bit that you really liked because it was an element that you never see in any of the other zombie films, and it's when the one zombie's arm gets grabbed.
You don't see this an awful lot in zombie flicks, where you're wrestling with a zombie and he pulls on the arm and it peels the skin back. I mean, just this rotting flesh pulls away.
Yeah, he loses hold of the zombie because
the zombie falls apart in his hands.
Yeah,
that's brilliantly well done. I love the fuck out of that.
Yeah, I will concede that I have a tendency that maybe I am over analyzing the end of the film.
That's our job.
That's our job. But you're right. The end of the film is executed really well. My issues with the plot, notwithstanding,
if you can turn your brain off, it's fine.
Good. It's good visual candy. There's with the Molotov cocktails. There's the attempts to shoot and hit the head, failing. I mean, the end of the film is great. And, of course, the girlfriend shows up.
And she has her Johnny moment. Her, oh my God, that's Johnny, gets grabbed and dragged off, basically.
So, the diver bites her boyfriend, and he falls to the side. He's like, shoot her! Shoot her! Reporter does the job. Bang. They get on the boat. And all the while, the guy's pleading, save me. Like... you're not going to get saved, dude.
You're done.
You're done.
Check out time. I think him and his desperation of I'm dying, but save me, save me, save me. I think that plays in well to the theme throughout the entire movie, where there's this sense of decay everywhere. The rotting arm that gets pulled on and just comes apart in your hands. Mm-hmm. There's when they find the boat in the New York harbor, they are panning around. There's maggots everywhere, and it's only been gone for a couple of days, so it can't have had time to have this happen. There's just this sense of despair and bleakness throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, run down, dilapidation. Yeah.
So I thought that was a well executed theme.
There was one thing that I heard you point out, and that's at the very end of the film. The daughter and the reporter, they're on the boat, they're making their way back. They turn on the radio to hear
New York being overrun by zombies.
New York is being overrun by zombies. And even so much to the point that the reporter, the zombies have gotten into the building. Ah! And it cuts to New York.
Right.
Brooklyn Bridge specifically. And there's a walkway and you see the zombies all trundling their way into New York. And... what's wrong with the scene?
The cars on either side, which you can clearly see, are just kind of driving along. It's your average New York rush hour.
Well, it's clearly the dead on one side going into New York for the buffet. On the other side, coming out, stuffed.
Yeah, they all hailed taxis and are on their way out.
So, clearly, Fulci didn't have the money to shut down the Brooklyn Bridge, even for 2 minutes to get a shot. So, we kind of ignore that.
Yeah.
Well, what you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Aside from that, if you ignore the cars, it's a very iconic shot of these zombies lumbering off into New York. It's a great, brilliant shot.
Another way you can look at that end shot, everybody's trying to get out of everywhere. When you're trying to run away, you're irrational. You're like, get on that road and keep going. So these people are going to New York and like, fuck. Turn around, come back out if they don't get stopped and chomped.
Yeah, one of the things that probably could have saved the scene, but they didn't do it, is because they just laid music down over the top of it. If they had put in the sound of and horns honking, the sound of people rushing,
a little ambience to it, yeah.
Yeah, that may have taken away from that's just regular traffic.
Plus, it's New York. Zombies, come on, 42nd Street is a lot more vile than a bunch of fucking zombies.
You mentioned the music. We cannot leave this episode without pointing out the music. The music is goddamn brilliant. It's so iconic. This is almost as good as Goblin's score for Dawn of the Dead. I
think the music is very well done. And matter of fact, it reminded me of... This has the sound of Dawn of the Dead. It did. Very much so.
Dawn of the Dead by way of George Romero.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a sentence I bet you didn't think you'd hear today.
And it's a good tie into Romero's movies since his stuff takes place in Pennsylvania, which is here, and New York's right here. So blam, you kind of cross the streams.
Okay, this movie was made in response to Dawn of the Dead's raging popularity in Italy. My headcanon says this comes before Dawn. This leads directly into Dawn.
Yeah.
The only thing it doesn't do is that it doesn't have the depth that a Romero movie would have normally.
It doesn't have the character studies. It doesn't. There's no emotional involvement.
The characters, yeah, you don't have anything. They're just ciphers. They're just people going through the motions. There's no character to it.
Although I will say this does touch on what Peter Washington said when they're standing in the mall looking at all the dead lying all over the floor. He says, Granddad was a priest in Trinidad. He had a saying, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. And what are they discussing on the island? Voodoo. Macumba. So there's this, thread that goes over here, so you get that whole thing taken care of, and you can kind of tie the two together. It's almost like you could segue from Dawn of the Dead to this movie where they're talking about the voodoo and the zombies and then go back.
So playing off the no more room in hell thing, I loved the line in that the doctor is trying to figure out what's going on, and he's asking his attendant, his local native attendant, it's like, well, what's going on? Well, there's no more room in hell, basically. And the doctor says, no, that's just superstition. That's nonsense. That can't be what's happening. And he says,
yes, you are right, Doctor. You know many more things than Lucas.
Totally dissing him. It's like just...
Yeah, his tone and delivery is totally like, yeah, you know more than I do.
And the dead are coming back to life, motherfucker.
Yeah.
This movie is well constructed. It's got great solid shots, great lighting, great sound. They did a good dub for stuff. I mean, occasionally there would be something that was slightly off in the dubbing. Maybe a sound didn't match, whatever.
Beginning of the film, there's the sound of empty pop cans rolling on the deck of the boat. Yet what you're seeing are full unopened cans of Coca-Cola rolling on the deck.
It's an Italian film.
Yeah.
The dubbing is dubious at best, so we'll give it that. But that's pretty par for the course.
Yes, but it's better than most.
Yeah, you can see where the money was spent in this sucker. I mean, clearly it was all up front. It's front-loaded with goodness, and it goes all the way from beginning to end. I mean, the costume design and everything like that, the zombies were on point. The gore is fantastic. It's evenly distributed. It's not all in one place. And you get all these little surprises here and there that make it, worthy of watching more than once, because you get the boom, 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 all the way to the end.
So you got anything else left you want to say?
I really would have liked to have seen a solidly connected sequel to this with those characters again.
Technically, there is a Zombie 3 that was directed by Fulci, but he bailed halfway through it and Bruno Mattei came in, and it has nothing to do with it.
It has nothing to do with it.
When you have stuff like this, which is just made to cash in, but is really good, it feels more like something that should go into Romero's, universe, and it doesn't waste anything. It's pretty lean, I would say. There's no fat on them bones.
All right, it's a lean movie with a little bit of padding towards the middle.
Yeah.
What you gonna do?
Well, baby got back.
Yeah.
Or baby got back ribs. Baby back ribs.
So is Zombie nasty?
Yeah, it's got some moments that are enough to make you squirm.
It's got a few really nasty shocks in it that would make the gray hairs go.
So you think it'll be on the list?
Yeah, kind of riding the fence on that one there.
Yeah.
It's really ridiculously moist. It's not... Okay, this just baffles the fuck out of me, is that how did this wind up on the list, but The Beyond, which is a far worse movie, got ignored?
Well, to get poster art, maybe the box.
I don't know. It
whatever.
wasn't that nasty, really.
But
yeah.
well, I mean, when
Yeah.
you look at the original box art with,
I'd say that
Desiccated Zombie,
there's a
that's
chance that somebody, the
classic.
people who were saying this needs to be banned, they actually watched this one, I think is what happened.
What we wind up with this one is that we get a lot of gore shots in this, but there's a lot of lingering gore shots. Like, for example, the Splinter, where you get to the point where if this was a normal movie, it would cut. And Fulci just keeps on going and going and going, well past the point of the
The shots are a little bit long for no reason.
The Energizer Fulci.
So I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
So, all right. So would you put it on the list?
Would I put it on the list?
Would you put it on the list?
No, I wouldn't put it on the list. I would put a restriction on it,
All right.
an actual proper rating system, and like, you know what? Kids shouldn't be seeing this shit.
All right.
Pretty much the same. I take it back. I would say, you know, this is one of those movies like Friday the 13th, Reanimator, and so on and so forth that every kid on the block has seen at least once.
Yeah.
This is true. No, I'm not going to put it on the list. No, it's...
These are rites of passage.
Yeah, no, fuck it.
Yeah.
Leave it off the list. Nope, not on the list.
Not on the list.
Acquitted.
On the list.
So I know it kind of falls apart at the end for you, but overall, did you like Zombie?
Yes, I did. It's a movie I would rewatch. I have rewatched. I would recommend it to people.
You know, this is one of the movies I saw when I was in my, I think, late teens, early 20s. It was one of those things like, oh yeah, I saw this in Fangoria. I'm going to go check it out. You know, and yeah, satisfying. Sometimes it was a little spare in areas, but yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
It is not my favorite Fulci movie. I think I'm going to go with The Beyond as his best movie. But it is, I would put this at easily number 2. And in my top 10 list of like zombie flicks, it would be The Romero 3, this, and then Land of the Dead.
Back to Romero.
Back to Romero.
Yeah.
So there you go. We dug it.
Mm-hmm.
We're just 3 minutes away from the start of our next feature. Still time to visit our refreshment stand.
And there we go. The very last movie on the 39 prosecuted list. Doesn't mean we're done, because from this point on, all the movies, they were either dropped from the list because they didn't think they would be able to secure a prosecution, or, like in the case of The Evil Dead, the producers successfully fought back and said, hell no, this will not stand. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to spend a couple of episodes playing Mary Whitehouse and the blue-haired upset ladies. We are going to build our own video nasty list of movies that should have probably have been on the list that somehow managed to avoid detection. Then we're going to take a short break because we like to watch a movie that doesn't have fucking rape in it. And then we'll come back for the next list, the non-prosecuted list. So, be sure to check back in and stay evil.